Let me ask you something. Have you ever locked eyes with someone, a stranger, someone at a party, someone you passed in a hallway, and within literal seconds felt like the entire world stopped spinning? Your chest tightens, your palms go slightly damp. Your brain fires off this signal, loud and urgent, like an alarm you didn't know you had. This person. Right now. I need to know everything about them, and you haven't even exchanged names yet. If that's ever happened to you, I want you to know something important before we go any further. You are not crazy. You are not being dramatic. And there is absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. What you experienced in that moment was one of the most sophisticated biological processes your body is capable of running, firing at full speed, in real time, without your permission. But here's the part nobody tells you, hells. And this is the reason I made this video. That exact feeling, that electric, all-consuming, almost supernatural pull toward another person, is also the single greatest source of heartbreak that humans experience. Not because desire itself is dangerous, but because we confuse what desire is with what we desperately want it to be. We mistake chemistry for compatibility. We mistake intensity for intimacy. We mistake a biological reaction for destiny. And today I'm going to walk you through the 4 stages of desire. Exactly what's happening inside your brain and body at each one, so that you can stop being dragged around by your own nervous system and start making conscious choices about who you let into your life. Fair warning, most people never make it past stage 2. They get stuck there, living inside a fantasy so convincing, so emotionally overwhelming, that by the time reality finally hits, the damage is already done. But if you can see these stages clearly, or if you can name what's happening while it's happening, you gain something most people never have: the power to choose. Let's start at the beginning. Stage 1. The spark, it happens. Faster than you can blink. We're talking milliseconds. Before you've consciously processed a single thing about this person, before you know their name, their laugh, their story, a part of your brain has already made a decision. Here's what's going on under the hood. Your amygdala, which is the brain's emotional processing center, and your reward system activate almost simultaneously. They're scanning everything in the environment at lightning speed: physical appearance, the way someone moves, the pitch and rhythm of their voice, their scent, yes, their scent, and what scientists call social energy, that intangible vibe a person radiates. All of this gets processed and evaluated before your prefrontal cortex, the rational, analytical, slow-thinking part of your brain, even has a chance to weigh in. Think about that. The logical part of you is basically the last one to the party. The symptoms of stage 1 are unmistakable. You feel suddenly more awake, more alert, like someone quietly turned up the volume on the entire world. You might feel a warmth spreading through your chest, or a kind of nervous electricity running under your skin. You can't stop thinking about them. You replay the interaction on a loop, analyzing every second of it. You get home and you realize you never even caught their last name, but somehow their face is burned into your memory. That's stage 1, and it feels amazing. But here is the critical trap that catches almost everyone. That spark does not mean you've found your person. It does not mean the universe aligned and brought you two together for a reason. What it means, biologically, neurologically, factually, is that your brain detected a new and highly rewarding stimulus and responded accordingly. That's it. The danger isn't in feeling the spark. The danger is in the story you immediately start telling yourself about the spark, because the moment that pull hits, most people don't just feel attracted to someone. They start constructing an entire narrative. They begin filling in the blanks. They start projecting qualities onto this person that they have no evidence actually exist. And they do all of this so fast, so automatically, that they don't even realize it's happening. So before you go any further, you need to ask yourself one honest question. And I mean genuinely honest. Not the answer you want to give, but the One that's actually true. Am I attracted to who this person actually is? Or am I attracted to the perfect version of them that I just invented in my head in the last 5 minutes? That question sounds simple. It is not simple at all, and if you can't answer it with real certainty, you're about to slide headfirst into stage 2, which is where things get seriously complicated. Stage 2, fascination and obsession. Welcome to the stage where most people lose the plot entirely. You know you're in stage 2 when you've reread a text message 10 times, not because it was long or confusing, but because you're trying to decode it. You're analyzing word choice, you're clocking the timestamp, you're comparing today's response time to yesterday's and building entire theories about what the difference means. You've become a detective, an obsessive, sleep-deprived detective, investigating a case where the only evidence is an emoji. Here's why this happens, and the neuroscience behind it is genuinely fascinating, but also kind of terrifying. Most people believe that dopamine is the brain's pleasure chemical. That's one of the most widespread myths in popular psychology. Dopamine is not about pleasure. Dopamine is about anticipation. It's about the search. It's the chemical your brain releases when it's chasing something it wants but hasn't gotten yet. And the critical thing to understand is this. Dopamine spikes are triggered by unpredictability. The less certain the outcome, the harder your dopamine system works. This is the exact same neurochemical mechanism that makes gambling addictive. The slot machine doesn't pay out every time, and that inconsistency is precisely what keeps people pulling the lever. When you're in stage 2 of desire, the person you're fixated on is your slot machine. They texted back within minutes yesterday, but today it's been 3 hours. Your brain doesn't register that as a neutral data point. Your brain experiences it as a threat and simultaneously as a puzzle that needs to be solved immediately. But it goes even deeper than that. Because here's the other thing your brain does in stage 2, and this is the part that really gets people. It hates incomplete information. It finds uncertainty genuinely uncomfortable. So to cope with that discomfort, your brain does something both brilliant and completely self-destructive. It fills in the gaps. You don't have enough information about this person to form a complete picture of who they are, so your mind generates one. It writes the story. It fills the gaps with the best, most ideal, most emotionally satisfying version of this human being that it can construct, drawn almost entirely from your own desires, your own fantasies, your own template for the perfect partner. You then proceed to fall for that person, the fictional one, the one you invented, and the real human being walking around in the world, living their actual life, having no idea what's happening. They had nothing to do with it. The symptom that tells you you're deep in stage 2 is disproportionate emotional response. The smallest things carry enormous weight. They use a specific word in a message, and you read it as deeply meaningful. They post a certain kind of photo, and you interpret it as a signal. If they're warm towards you, the entire day feels lit from within. If they seem slightly distant, you feel a physical weight in your chest that you can't explain away. You're not reacting to them. You're reacting to the script your own mind wrote. And if you don't find a way to interrupt this cycle, you will slide directly into stage 3, which is where the real damage happens. Stage 3 is where your self-protective instincts go quiet, where the red flags you would normally run from start to look strangely acceptable, where you begin making choices you'll later struggle to explain. And the reason it happens is something scientists have actually measured. What they found is deeply unsettling. Stage 3. The climax and the blindness. This is the stage where desire stops being a feeling and becomes a force of nature. Your need for this person's attention stops feeling like a preference and starts feeling like a necessity. Your personal boundaries, the ones you established through hard experience, the ones you swore you'd never compromise, start dissolving. And you don't even fully notice it happening because every part of your cognitive system that would normally flag the problem has been temporarily taken offline. Here's the neuroscience, and I want you to sit with this one for a moment. Researchers studying people in the peak stages of romantic desire have found that serotonin levels in the brain drop sharply, falling to levels comparable to those seen in patients diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD. Think about that. The intrusive thoughts, the inability to redirect your attention, the compulsive checking, the replaying, the inability to just let it go. But that's not weakness or immaturity. That's your brain chemistry at work, running patterns it was never designed to sustain long-term. Simultaneously, cortisol and adrenaline, your stress hormones, spike dramatically. This is why desire at its peak feels like anxiety. That knot in your stomach, that hyper-vigilant alertness, that sense that something important is either about to happen or about to fall apart. Your nervous system is in a state of chronic, low-grade emergency, and in that state your judgment is compromised in ways you genuinely cannot fully perceive from the inside. The signature symptom of stage 3 is losing control in ways that look, from the outside, like love. Real example. The person you're obsessed with cancels plans at the last minute. In any other context with any other person, that would be mildly annoying at most. But in stage 3, it sends you into a spiral. You cancel your own plans to stay available. Just in case they change their mind, you stare at your phone. You start composing and deleting messages. You rehearse entire conversations in your head. You have restructured your entire Sunday around someone else's ambivalence. And the part that's hardest to face is that the red flags don't disappear in this stage. They're still there, often as obvious as ever, but your brain has reclassified them. Things that would have been deal breakers 3 months ago are now being rationalized, explained away, filed under nobody's perfect, or they're just going through something right now. You're not seeing them more clearly because you love them. You're seeing them less clearly because your neurochemistry has narrowed your focus to a single objective: resolve the uncertainty. Get the connection. Feel the relief. And this is where you have to force yourself to stop and ask the second essential question of this entire process. Am I choosing this person consciously because being with them genuinely makes my life better? Or am I just chasing relief from the intensity of wanting them? If you can answer that honestly and still decide they're worth pursuing, great. That's your choice to make. But if you're not even sure which one it is, that's the answer. Stage 3 cannot last forever. Biologically, it's impossible. Your body will eventually force a reckoning. And when it does, when the chemistry finally settles, you arrive at the most important stage of all, stage 4. Clarity and the power of choice. The fog lifts. Slowly, sometimes all at once, but it lifts. The adrenaline fades, the cortisol drops. The dopamine loops that had your brain spinning like a slot machine finally slow down. And for the first time since this whole thing started, you can actually see, why does this happen? Your brain undergoes what neuroscientists call neurological habituation. It is biologically impossible for any system in your body to maintain the intensity of stage 3 indefinitely. If it tried, you would collapse mentally, physically, emotionally. So your brain attempts a chemical transition. It begins moving away from the volatile cocktail of dopamine, cortisol, and adrenaline and reaching toward oxytocin, the bonding hormone, the hormone of security, deep attachment, and genuine connection. But here is where nature reveals its quiet cruelty. Oxytocin only takes root when there is something real to attach to. It requires trust. It requires safety. It requires genuine compatibility. You can't fake your way into it, and no amount of desire can manufacture it. In stage 4, you see the person as they actually are. You notice how they communicate when they're frustrated. You observe how they treat people they don't need anything from. You feel whether your body actually relaxes around them, or whether you're still quietly, constantly performing. And in this clarity, you arrive at a fork in the road. 2 paths, and only 2. The first path is disillusionment. Stage 4. Clarity and the power of choice. The fog lifts. Slowly, sometimes all at once, but it lifts. The adrenaline fades. The cortisol drops. The dopamine loops that had your brain spinning like a slot machine finally slow down. And for the first time since this whole thing started, you can actually see, why does this happen? Your brain undergoes what neuroscientists call neurological habituation. It is biologically impossible for any system in your body to maintain the intensity of stage 3 indefinitely. If it tried, you would collapse mentally, physically, emotionally. So your brain attempts a chemical transition. It begins moving away from the volatile cocktail of dopamine, cortisol, and adrenaline, and reaching toward oxytocin, the bonding hormone, the hormone of security, deep attachment, and genuine connection. But here is where nature reveals its quiet cruelty. Oxytocin only takes root when there is something real to attach to. It requires trust, it requires safety, it requires genuine compatibility. You can't fake your way into it, and no amount of desire can manufacture it. In stage 4, you see the person as they actually are. You notice how they communicate when they're frustrated. You observe how they treat people they don't need anything from. You feel whether your body actually relaxes around them, or whether you're still quietly, constantly performing. And in this clarity, you arrive at a fork in the road. 2 paths and only 2. The first path is disillusionment. Something happens, an argument, an offhand comment, a moment where their values reveal themselves to be fundamentally different from yours, and the illusion fractures. Cleanly, completely. You realize that the attraction was genuine, powerful, and real. But the compatibility wasn't there. The person you fell for was partly them and partly a story you told yourself. And here's what I want you to hear. That is not failure. That is biology doing exactly what it was designed to do. The initial pull is meant to get you close enough to find out. Stage 4 is where you actually find out. The second path is evolution. The intense, almost destabilizing chemistry of the early stages softens, and what replaces it is something richer, more complex, more durable. You navigate your first real conflict and come out the other side understanding each other better. The heat becomes warmth, the obsession becomes appreciation, the need becomes choice. That's when you know it's real. The takeaway, understanding. These 4 stages isn't about suppressing desire or turning yourself into an emotionless observer of your own life. It's not about killing the romance or approaching attraction like a scientific experiment. It's about one thing, not letting temporary chemistry make permanent decisions for you, because desire pulls you in with intensity. But clarity gives you back your power. And knowing the difference, truly knowing from the inside, between chemical intensity and real intimacy is one of the most important skills a human being can develop. Stage 1 tells you someone is. Interesting. Stage 2 shows you how your mind works under pressure. Stage 3 tests whether you know who you are when your nervous system is running the show. Stage 4 gives you the truth. Most people never get a clear look at what's happening in those first 3 stages. They get swept up. They make decisions from inside the storm, and they wonder later, and sometimes years later, how things went so wrong so fast when everything felt so right. But you've seen the map now, you know the terrain, so the next time you feel that electric pull, that sudden, breathless, world-stopping attraction to someone you just met, you can feel it fully. You don't have to shut it down. You don't have to be skeptical or guarded or clinical about it. You can just also ask, where am I in this? What stage is this? Is this real, or am I writing a story? That question, asked honestly, changes everything.